Zoe Gardner, who is a researcher and campaigner on migrants' rights. Thanks very much for coming to the studio, Zoe. The tragedy that we saw this morning, 7-year-old girl killed as well, is precisely the reason why the government wants to stop this and use the flights to Rwanda as a disincentive.
Well, the government says that it would do anything to stop people taking these risky journeys and to stop these deaths. But the one thing that it won't do is give people a safe alternative way to travel. And that's the one thing that would actually stop the deaths. We need to give people an alternative way to get across the channel. We could then know who they are. We could give them an orderly paperwork in order to come here and then put them into an orderly asylum system in order to assess their claim.
But that's not on the cards at the moment. And in the absence of that, is a robust disincentive not the second best idea?
But this isn't any kind of a disincentive. What we've
We don't know yet, do we? I mean, the flights haven't taken off yet.
Well, all the evidence from similar types of schemes around the world tell us that this isn't going to be a disincentive. What it might do is push people into even more dangerous journeys, and I'll explain why. At the moment, even though it seems counterintuitive, the reason people are taking the small boats across the channel is because you're bound to be intercepted by the UK Border Force, who will take you into the system where you want to claim asylum, where you want to say, I'm a refugee, I need protection, let me stay. Now we're saying, we're not going to protect you. It doesn't matter who you are, man, woman, child, Afghan, Syrian.
Well, there are some exemptions, aren't there? So Afghans who served in the military, while we were there as well, they will be exempt from this, apparently.
Well, that's not been put into the legislation. And actually, I think that's kind of a workaround because they know they're not going to send away even the tiny proportion of people. So they can argue, oh yeah, we'll keep the Afghans here. But in fact, they'd have to assess people to work out if they're Afghans, and we're not doing that.
There's still a possibility of specific legal challenges, aren't there? I mean, if there is serious and irreversible harm done by being sent to Rwanda, then there can be a challenge. How many people of those who are waiting, and we don't know the exact numbers, are kind of lining up to mount such a challenge? Do you have any idea?
I would imagine that lawyers and human rights defenders around the country are trying to identify the people who are most at risk of this in order to try to assist them. Because what will happen when we already know that everybody in the asylum system is now absolutely terrified that this might apply to them. And that's causing, these are people who are traumatized, who have escaped from war and persecution and undertaken really dangerous journeys. They've then been left in limbo with no right to work in squalid conditions in many cases for the long term. So their mental health has deteriorated further. And now they have this threat hanging over them as well. So in terms of people's mental health, we need to remember that this will be a violent operation, right? And so this is, in terms
of because of the way that people have to be dragged onto planes.
They have to be dragged onto planes. People are likely to have serious mental health crises and panic attacks. They may attempt to self-harm. They may attempt to do desperate things in order to prevent themselves from being sent there. So the lawyers will try to use that to protect people.
Okay, Zoe Gardner, thanks very much.